When you think of a funeral, you think of black suits, you think of quiet sobs and hushed whispers. You probably don't think of a bright red nose or oversized shoes. Yet, here I am. My name is Pip, and I am a funeral clown. It's a job title that often gets a sideways glance, a confused pause. People expect clowns at birthday parties, at circuses, anywhere but a place filled with grief. But grief is exactly where I belong. My work is not about making people forget their sadness. It's about helping them remember the joy. It's about celebrating a life that was lived, not just mourning a life that has ended. My business card reads, Pip for a lighter farewell. It sounds strange, I know. Death is heavy. It's a weight that settles on your shoulders and in your heart. My job is to lift a tiny corner of that weight, just for a moment, to let a little light in. I don't tell jokes about death. I tell jokes about life. I use silent comedy, gentle tricks, and a warm presence to remind people that it's okay to smile through the tears. In fact, sometimes, a smile is the most honest tribute you can give to someone who filled your life with happiness. This profession is built on that simple, powerful idea. Most people stumble into their careers, a college degree, a family business, a lucky break. I stumbled into mine through a personal loss. My grandfather was a man who laughed with his whole body. His funeral was so somber, so drained of his personality, that it felt like we were mourning a stranger. It was then I realized that funerals didn't have to be one size fits all. They could be as unique, as vibrant, and as funny as the person they were honoring. I decided to offer an alternative, a service for the pranksters, the storytellers, and the eternally young at heart. So yes, I am a clown who goes to funerals. I carry a bag of tricks instead of a briefcase. My uniform is a muted rainbow instead of somber black. My goal is not to distract from the pain, but to integrate the joy. To hold a space where sorrow and laughter can coexist, because that is what a full life looks like. It's a messy, beautiful, and sometimes hilarious mix of everything. My work is to honor that mix, one gentle honk of a horn at a time. It's an unusual calling, but for the families I serve, it's a necessary one. My day starts not with a blaring alarm, but with the soft light of dawn. Today is July 22nd, 2025. It's a Tuesday. I have a service for a man named Arthur at noon. The morning routine is a quiet ritual, a way to center myself before I step into someone else's grief. I don't jump into character. Pip the clown doesn't exist yet. First, it's just me, drinking my tea and looking out the window. I think about Arthur. His family told me he was a retired postman who loved silly magic tricks and always had a terrible pun ready for any occasion. He sounds like my kind of person. The transformation begins slowly. It's not a circus act, it's more like putting on armor, but this armor is soft and colorful. I lay out my costume with care. The pants are a gentle patchwork of muted blues and grays, not a garish explosion of color. The suspenders are a cheerful but not blinding yellow. Everything is clean, pressed, and respectful. This isn't about drawing attention to me. It's about creating a gentle, approachable figure. A character who can absorb some of the room's tension without adding to the chaos. The clothes are a tool, a part of the unique service I provide. Next comes the face paint. This is the most meditative part of the morning. I don't use the thick white grease paint of a circus clown. My base is my own skin. I use soft pastels to create a subtle smile, a hint of wonder in the eyes. The smile I paint is gentle, not a wide, manic grin. It's a look of warmth and empathy. As I apply the makeup, I think about the family. I think about their stories of Arthur. I think about the laughter he brought them. My painted smile is a reflection of his legacy, not just a mask for me to hide behind. It's an invitation to remember the good times. The final touch is the nose. It's not a big squeaky ball. It's a small, soft crimson sphere that fits snugly. The moment it's on, I am no longer just myself. I am Pip. My posture changes. My movements become a little softer, a little more deliberate. I check myself in the mirror. Pip looks ready. He looks calm. He looks like someone you could share a sad story with, and maybe, just maybe, find a small chuckle in the middle of it. I grab my bag of props, a flower that wilts and revives, a set of juggling scarves, a tiny ukulele, and head out the door, ready to help a family say goodbye. I always arrive at the funeral home early. It gives me time to get a feel for the space and, more importantly, to meet the family before the other guests arrive. Today, I find Arthur's daughter Sarah standing near the entrance. She looks exhausted, her shoulders slumped under the invisible weight of her loss. When she sees me, a flicker of something new crosses her face. Not quite a smile, but a release of tension. "You must be Pip," she says, her voice a little shaky. I give a slow, simple nod, my painted smile doing the rest of the talking for a moment. I don't start with a joke or a trick. I start with listening. I pull up a chair beside her, my oversized shoes making a soft shuffling sound on the carpet. I ask her to tell me another story about her dad. Her face softens as she recalls how Arthur would magically find quarters behind her ears, even when she was 30 years old. She talks about his terrible gardening skills and how he insisted his prize-winning pumpkin was just big-boned. We're not ignoring the sadness of his absence. We are filling the space with the vibrancy of his presence, making him feel near. Her son, a young boy of about 8 named Leo, comes over and eyes me with suspicion. He's clutching a small toy car, his face a storm of confusion and grief. Kids often don't know how to process the formal, heavy atmosphere of a funeral. I don't say anything to him. Instead, I slowly pull a single, colorful silk scarf from my pocket. I let it drift to the floor. I pick it up, and it turns into 2 scarves. Leo's eyes widen. I offer one to him. He hesitates, then takes it. It's a small, silent exchange, but a connection is made. For a second, he's not just a boy at his grandpa's funeral. He's a boy watching a bit of magic. Other family members start to arrive. An uncle claps me on the shoulder and says, "Arthur would have loved this. He would have heckled you." An aunt wipes a tear from her eye and says, "Thank you for being here. We needed this." Each interaction is a delicate dance. I am a quiet observer, a gentle catalyst for stories. My role in these early moments is not to perform, but to be a calm, colorful presence that signals to everyone, this is a safe place to grieve, and it's also a safe place to remember joy. The room begins to fill not just with sorrow, but with the murmurs of fond, funny memories. People often ask families, why a clown? It seems like a shocking choice. A departure from the solemn traditions we've been taught are the only way to mourn. But for families like Arthur's, the choice is simple. A traditional funeral would have felt like a lie. It would have painted a portrait of a man they didn't recognize. Arthur wasn't a somber, serious person. He was a man who wore silly hats to dinner parties and believed that a day without a bad pun was a day wasted. To honor him with relentless gravity would have been the greatest disrespect of all. Choosing humor is an act of love. It's a declaration that the deceased's spirit, their unique spark, was so bright that it can't be extinguished by death. It's a way for the family to say, we remember who you were and we will celebrate it. For many, laughter was the language they shared with their loved one. It was the soundtrack to their lives. To suddenly banish it during their final farewell feels unnatural and wrong. A funeral clown gives them permission to speak their native language, to remember their person in the way that feels most authentic and true. This choice is also a profound act of healing. Grief can be isolating, a heavy cloak that cuts you off from the world. Laughter, even the smallest chuckle, is a moment of connection. It's a shared breath, a release of tension that says, we are in this together. When you laugh at a shared memory of a loved one, you are affirming their life and your relationship to them. It doesn't erase the pain, but it makes it bearable. It creates a small pocket of light in the darkness, a reminder that joy is still possible even in the face of immense loss. So families don't choose a clown to mock death or to ignore their pain. They choose a clown to honor a life fully and honestly. They choose it because their loved one would have wanted it. They choose it because their grief is so deep that they need more than just tears to express it. They need the full spectrum of human emotion, from the lowest sob to the highest peal of laughter. They choose me because I can help them navigate that spectrum, creating a farewell that is as rich, complex, and beautiful as the life it celebrates. Balancing respect and comedy is the very heart of my job. It's a tightrope walk over a canyon of emotions. Lean too far into comedy and you risk seeming disrespectful or trivializing the family's pain. Lean too far into solemnity and you fail to provide the unique comfort you were hired to give. The key is intention. My humor is never aimed at the person who has died or at the situation of their death. It is always aimed at celebrating their life and personality. It is gentle, observational, and born from the stories the family has shared with me. My approach is built on silence and physicality. Words can be tricky things in a room full of grief. A poorly phrased joke can land with a thud, but a silent gesture, a gentle physical bit, can cross emotional barriers without a word. For instance, if I am told the deceased was always losing their keys, I might spend a moment patting my own pockets in a comical, fruitless search. It's a small, relatable act that elicits a knowing smile from the family. It's a joke they are all in on, a shared secret that honors a specific, humanizing quirk of the person they miss. I also act as a sort of emotional conductor. I watch the room carefully. I read the energy. If the mood is heavy and the tears are flowing freely, I will recede into the background. I might simply sit quietly, my colorful presence a silent reminder of the joy that will eventually return. But if I see a moment of levity, a story being shared that brings a smile, I might support it with a small action, a quiet nod, a thumbs up, or even pulling out a flower and offering it to the storyteller. It's about amplifying the positive moments, not forcing them. Ultimately, respect comes from listening. Before any service, I spend time with the family, learning what made their loved one special. I learn their favorite jokes, their silly habits, their proudest, funniest moments. My performance is not a generic clown routine, it is a custom-built tribute. It's a reflection of the person they knew and loved. The laughter I evoke is not hollow. It is filled with memory and affection. This deep personalization ensures that the humor is always respectful, always loving, and always in service of celebrating a unique and cherished life. As the formal ceremony begins, my role shifts from quiet observer to active participant. Sarah had asked me to do something special during the eulogy portion. She wanted to read a letter to her father, but she was worried she wouldn't make it through without breaking down completely. She asked if I could stand beside her to offer support. The funeral director, a kind but traditional man, looked a bit uncertain about the whole thing, but he agreed. So, as Sarah walked to the podium, I followed a few steps behind her, my oversized shoes making a soft, reassuring shuffle. Sarah began to read, her voice thick with emotion. She spoke of her father's kindness, his unwavering support. As the tears started to well in her eyes, she faltered. This was my cue. I reached into my pocket and slowly pulled out 3 soft, colorful balls. I didn't look at the audience. I looked at Sarah and I began to juggle. It was a slow, gentle rhythm, not a flashy circus trick. The balls rose and fell in a steady, hypnotic pattern. It was something to focus on, a visual anchor in a sea of overwhelming emotion. The effect was immediate. A few people in the front row let out a soft, surprised chuckle. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the floating spheres, and she continued reading. The juggling became a silent accompaniment to her words. When she spoke of her father's chaotic energy, I sped up the pattern slightly. When she spoke of his calm wisdom, I slowed it down. It was a duet between her words and my actions, a physical representation of the man she was describing. The juggling wasn't a distraction, it was an illustration. She reached the end of her letter, her voice steady and clear. "We will miss you, Dad. We will miss your magic." As she said the word magic, I let one of the balls seemingly vanish into thin air. A collective soft gasp went through the room, followed by a ripple of warm, gentle laughter. It was a perfect punctuation mark. Leo, her son, was beaming. Sarah turned to me and gave a watery, grateful smile. In that moment, we had created a eulogy that was both heartbreakingly sad and beautifully, wonderfully alive, just like Arthur. After the formal service, during the reception, my work becomes more intimate and interactive. This is where the small personal connections are forged. I don't command the center of the room. Instead, I wander through the small clusters of people, a quiet, colorful vessel for their stories. An elderly man, Arthur's brother, pulls me aside. He tells me about a fishing trip where Arthur managed to hook his own hat instead of a fish. As he tells the story, he starts to laugh, his shoulders shaking. I listen, nodding, and then I pull out a tiny fishing rod and reel in my own clown nose. His laughter booms through the room. Later, I see young Leo sitting by himself again, looking lost. I sit on the floor near him, not too close, and start to build a small tower out of sugar cubes from the coffee station. It wobbles precariously. I look at it with comical frustration. Leo inches closer. He points to a wobbly cube. I nudge it, and the whole tower tumbles down. I look at him with wide-eyed shock, and he giggles. A real, genuine giggle. We spend the next 10 minutes building and knocking down sugar cube towers. We don't say a word, but in that shared, silly game, he finds a moment of normal childhood fun amidst a very adult day. A woman I recognize as Arthur's neighbor approaches me, holding a half-eaten cookie. "You know," she says, "he would have put salt in the sugar bowl. He did it once at our neighborhood potluck." She's smiling at the memory. He thought it was the height of comedy. I reach into my pocket and pull out a miniature salt shaker. I look at the sugar bowl on the table, then I look at her and I give a conspiratorial wink. We share a silent laugh, a secret tribute to Arthur's mischievous spirit. These small interactions are the essence of my work, turning a memory into a living, breathing moment. These connections are not about grand gestures. They are about being present and responsive. They are about finding the humor that already exists within the family stories and reflecting it back to them. Each smile, each laugh is a small victory against the overwhelming tide of grief. It's a testament to the fact that the person they loved left behind a legacy of joy. My role is simply to help them unwrap that gift. I am a mirror, showing them the happiness that is still there, nestled right alongside the sorrow. As the gathering begins to wind down, my work draws to a close. My final act is always a quiet one. I don't vanish with a puff of smoke or a loud honk. The farewell needs to be as gentle as the introduction. I find Sarah as she's saying goodbye to some relatives. I wait patiently until she is free. I don't need to say anything. I simply offer her a small, simple flower. It's a real one this time, not a trick one. A single, perfect daisy. It's a symbol of life, of simple beauty, and of the memories that will continue to grow. She takes the flower, her fingers brushing against my white glove. "Thank you, Pip," she says. And her voice is different now. It's still sad, but it's not as heavy as it was this morning. There's a lightness to it, a note of peace. "You helped us remember the real him, the man who laughed." I just nod, my painted smile feeling more real than it did this morning. My job is done. I have helped them carry the weight by reminding them of the light. It's a profound privilege and one I never take for granted. My exit is slow and deliberate. I give a small wave to Leo, who waves back with a full, unreserved grin. I nod to the uncle who threatened to heckle me. I make my way to the door, my soft shoes barely making a sound. I am slipping away as quietly as I arrived, leaving the family with their memories, which now feel a little brighter. The atmosphere in the room has shifted. The air is still thick with loss, of course, but it's also filled with the warmth of shared stories and the echo of recent laughter. The grief has not been erased, but it has been transformed. Driving home, I feel a familiar mix of exhaustion and fulfillment. I have absorbed a great deal of sorrow today, but I have also been a part of a great deal of love. I have seen a family at their most vulnerable, and I have witnessed their incredible strength. They chose to face their darkest day not just with tears, but with the courage to laugh. They chose to honor a life with the same joy that it was lived. My final bow is always for them, for their bravery, and for the loved one they celebrated so beautifully. Why does this strange job matter? It matters because death is a universal human experience, but our response to it doesn't have to be universally grey. We are told to be quiet, to be somber, to wear black, to put our happy memories away for a while. But for some people, that feels like a betrayal of the person they lost. My work matters because it gives people permission. Permission to grieve in a way that is authentic to them and to the one they are mourning. It validates the idea that joy and sorrow are not opposites, but partners in the dance of a well-lived life. Laughter is a physical release. It's a convulsion of the body that pushes out tension. In a time of intense emotional and physical stress, that release can be a lifeline. It can break a cycle of uncontrollable sobbing. It can cut through the thick fog of shock and numbness. It's not about ignoring the pain. It's about puncturing it, letting a little bit of air out so the pressure doesn't become unbearable. A moment of laughter at a funeral doesn't mean you're not sad. It means you are human, and you are remembering a life that included happiness. This work has taught me more about humanity than anything else. It has shown me the incredible resilience of the human heart. To be able to laugh while you are grieving is not a sign of weakness or disrespect. It is a sign of immense strength. It is a refusal to let death have the final word. It is a powerful statement that love and joy are enduring forces that memory keeps alive. The families who hire me are some of the bravest people I have ever met. They are actively choosing a more difficult, more honest, and ultimately more healing path. So I will continue to put on my painted smile and my soft, colorful clothes. I will continue to juggle and to pull wilting flowers from my pockets. Because in the darkest of rooms, a little bit of light can make all the difference. My job is to be that little bit of light, to remind people that it's okay to smile through the tears, to show them that laughter is not the enemy of grief, but its companion. It is the melody of a cherished life playing on long after the silence has fallen, and that is a truly sacred noise.